And joining us now on the line is our good friend Bill Kristol. Hello, Bill. How are you? Been a while.
I'm fine. Good morning. How are you?
It's good to have you. I want to start off with talking about the Hillary email story. First of all, some have called it a scandal. Do you think it's a scandal?
Yes. I mean, I think people are slightly missing the forest for the trees on this, and we're missing the trees for the forest, or whatever that metaphor is. Too early in the morning for those complicated metaphors.
Yeah.
Set up, I mean, you're appointed Secretary of State of the United States, and you just make a decision. I think I'll do all my official business on my on a server account that's been set up in my home in Chappaqua, so as to shield, and now she's shielding her emails from the press, from the public, and incidentally from her fellow employees at the State Department. One of the big underreported sides of this is she did not want, I suspect, when an inquiry came into the General Counsel's office or to the Inspector General at the State Department, for the normal process where they would say, okay, we'll look at your State Department account, we'll see what the relevant documents are. Here, somehow, I don't know what happened. Well, we know what happened when these requests came in. They weren't responded to. But I think she was also shielding the efforts of herself and her closest aides from others in the Obama administration. Very typical of Hillary, but also really amazing kind of disregard of the normal rules and procedures.
I noticed that Megyn Kelly last night had a report that said that, look, when you leave the State Department, you're required to sign some paperwork, sort of a departure agreement. And one of the things that you sign in that agreement is a certification that you've handled over all your documents and emails. And now the question is, did she sign it? And if she signed it, why didn't she hand over emails at that time?
You know, the rules don't apply to her. I mean, that has always been their attitude, but you just see it so clearly here. And he's the one who normally had bent the rules in the past, and one thought maybe she was a little different, and then she becomes Secretary of State, and you think, okay, it's a new start. And it turned out not to be a new start. I think this is very damaging. Again, it's not shading them. It's not being a little sloppy. It's not maybe taking, doing a few things offline because they're very sensitive. This is just a systematic effort to treat herself, to have herself be treated differently from everyone else. I mean, John Kerry didn't do this, Kathleen Sebelius didn't do this, Leon Panetta didn't do this, Bob Gates didn't do this. I mean, it just is so revealing that this was her first thought.
Well, and Bill, setting aside, unfortunately, because of presidential politics and because Democrats pretty much have put all of their eggs in the Hillary basket at this point, there's such a defensive crouch here, and so many people are trying to, get beyond what this really is fundamentally, which is a breakdown of a government agency. I mean, that to me, I'm more angry that the Secretary of State did this than I am a potential presidential candidate. And here's why I preface my question with that. We've now learned, it appears, that Cheryl Mills, the longtime aide to Hillary Clinton, who was also an employee of the State Department, she had an email address on this private server. So that sort of blows up everything Hillary Clinton just said about how this being just about convenience. Surely Cheryl Mills was fine carrying two devices around. Those emails are now lost. Would those be personal emails, or would those be professional emails?
No, her inner circle were on that server, it looks like. And that was obviously to allow her to have conversations she didn't want others to know about, including, as I say, others, career bureaucrats, lawyers, inspector generals, others from the Obama administration. So it is very revealing. I totally agree with you. I mean, I worked in the government for 7 years. Again, people make mistakes. People don't always follow the rules perfectly. People interpret them differently at the margin. But this is way off the charts. And I agree, it's not about Hillary Clinton, the presidential candidate. Pardon the dog here. It's about Hillary Clinton, the Secretary of State. I do think it affects the presidential race. If you look at that New York Times piece this morning on Hillary, most of it is about how Hillary's inevitable, Democrats have no choice. But the quote at the end from Deval Patrick, the two-term governor of Massachusetts, who just finished his second term a few months ago, is all about we need to have competition. We can't coronate Hillary. Yeah. Deval Patrick is a serious guy. He's very close to David Axelrod. Axelrod ran Deval's races, Patrick's races, before he ran Obama's. So, or at the same time, actually, I guess in 2006.
Well,
so that's very interesting to me.
Well, there's a lot of long knives out, a lot of anonymous quotes in a Washington Post story saying that that describes her handling of this as clumsy and insular, a warning sign. There are these anonymous quotes from Democrats saying that it smacks of arrogance, bunker mentality, that it was a self-inflicted wound. A lot of Democrats apparently very nervous about this.
They are. fire, but then they think, oh, we have no choice, the Clinton machine, and she's 60% or 55% in the polls. And the Times article, which is an intelligent piece, a lot of quotes, a lot to the donors. She has the fundraising network no one does. I think it's one of these cases. It really is the emperor and the new clothes. When until someone challenges someone serious, not Bernie Sanders or whatever, but an Elizabeth Warren or a Deval Patrick or an Al Gore, Jerry Brown, even someone who's got some stature. I think O'Malley could do it, incidentally, who has some stature, a governor, in those cases, almost all of them are two-term governors, or Gore, a former vice president. I think until one of them steps in, it'll be, oh, Hillary's inevitable. The moment one of them steps in, or 2 weeks after one of them steps in, it'll be, oh, my God, is she really that strong? Look even at the polls, incidentally. She's at, 55% in most of these Democratic primary polls. But I think that means 45% of the party doesn't want her. I mean, it's misleading to say the polls are 55-12. What the polls really are is 55-45 for whoever would run against her, I suspect. And I suspect that a real race, a Martin O'Malley would really have a good chance against her. And I think Elizabeth Warren would have an excellent chance.
Bill Kristol, the other big story that's dominating Washington, D.C. is this letter sent out by 47 Republican senators sort of letting Iran know exactly what the rules are with regard to any negotiated deal from the president. And a lot of people are criticizing this. You've been on both sides of this. You've worked for an administration, and you also, I think, have been very strong in condemning the president's role here with the Iran negotiation. None other than Leslie Gelb yesterday actually called this an act of near treachery. He's a pretty well-respected man. Where do you stand on this?
Well, the rhetoric of the left is totally out of control. I support the letter, but if you want to criticize it, criticize it. But this rhetoric of treachery is left-wing McCarthyism. It shows how desperate and pathetic, honestly, today's liberals are. They don't want to have a debate on Iran policy. It's an open letter. This isn't like secretly going to the Iranian leaders. This isn't what Democrats most sadly have done in the past in trying to sabotage American foreign policy at times. Jimmy Carter sending private letters to the UN Security Council. Ted Kennedy having private conversations with the Russian ambassador, the Soviet ambassador. This is an open letter. It's ludicrous, the response to it. I think it's perfectly accurate, the letter. I think it's a contribution, and it's clear that it was necessary. The Iranian foreign minister seems to think that if Obama personally makes a deal with Iran, that it binds the next president and the Congress, even if he doesn't submit it to the Congress. And it was very useful, I think, for Senator Cotton and his colleagues to point out the truth.
What's the name of your dog?
Patches.
And how old is Patches?
He's quite old, and he's calmed down a lot in his later years, but somehow when I get on the phone, he gets excited.
Bill, well, we're very big with dogs.
He knows it's you guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Normal phone calls, normal radio interviews, nothing.
Bill Kristol, I got to tell you.
WMAL, Larry, Brian, it's like, whoa, this is an exciting moment.
Well, thank you for being part of our next promo, Bill Kristol. And I got to tell you, one of our favorite things is talking to very important, very intelligent, serious people like you about these huge international affairs and having a dog barking in the background. Yeah. It really is fun. We love it.
Maybe you should just
glad to supply the comic relief here.
No.
Maybe you should just let the dog out. That would.
You think? Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Bill. We do appreciate you joining us this morning.
My pleasure.
Thank God it's confirmed that Bill Kristol doesn't have a cat.
Yeah,
I mean, he is
obviously
obviously
a dog guy,
person.
I'd have to change my whole opinion
about
him. That's right.